In our youth, our hearts were touched with fire. Writing and Fighting the Civil War. Union and Confederate soldier letters written from the battlefront.
12th Regiment, New York State Volunteers, Washington, D.C., May 1, 1861. To the editors of the Sunday Mercury, there are, it is estimated, over 20,000 troops in the capital this moment. It is nothing but the roll of the drum, the sound of the bugle, and drill, drill, and tramp, tramp of soldiers all day long. The officers and men are unceasing in their endeavors to acquire the necessary proficiency in the manual of arms, to fit them for the strife. We were pleased to hear that some of our members, who were compelled to remain behind, have raised a fund to assist the families of those who rallied to the call of their country. It is a praiseworthy deed. They will reap their reward. Companies H, F, and A are quartered in a church, corner of 5th Street and Louisiana Avenue. And yesterday, about 3 p.m., as we were sitting in our quarters, some of the men employed mending their clothes, others variously employed, there arose one of the most terrific yells at the door I ever heard, and for a moment I could not imagine where I was. But I soon learned the cause, for in a few moments I saw from the pulpit, where I was standing, the tall form of President Lincoln, and at his side the favorite son of New York, Governor William Seward, making their way through the dense mass up to the pulpit. After silence was obtained, the governor said he had brought the president to see the New York boys, and the 12th Regiment in particular, for he thought they could shout as loud and fight as well as any others in the country. These remarks were received with a perfect yell. Silence again being restored, the president thanked them for the alacrity they had shown in responding to the call of the government to defend the glorious stars and stripes. He said that millions yet unborn would thank them for their ready response and privations which they had and may still have to endure in the cause of their country. They then retired, shaking hands with all who were within their reach. I have nothing of consequence further to say, but if anything occurs, I will inform you as soon as practicable. David G. McKelvey, 1st Sergeant, Company H, 12th New York State Militia.
8th Regiment, New York State Militia, Annapolis, Maryland, May 2, 1861. To the editors of the Sunday Mercury, I hasten to give you a few matters which may be of some interest. The regiment, 8th New York State Troops, left New York on Tuesday evening, April 23rd, by steamer Alabama at 11:30 o'clock with about 1,000 men to go to, I don't know where. On Wednesday, the men paid their respects to old Neptune almost to a man. Nothing of particular interest occurred until Thursday morning, when we went on deck and found ourselves in company with the steamers James Adger and Marion. The former had the United States brig Perry in tow, and the 69th Regiment, numbering some 1,200 men on board. The Marion had the 13th Regiment on board. They number about 600 men. The decks and rigging of the different vessels were covered with human beings. The bands were all playing our national airs and Dixie, and cheer after cheer were given by the men, making it one of the grandest occasions I have ever witnessed. While going up the river, a British brig was hailed by the Perry and called upon to show her colors, which at first they refused to do, but a gun across her bows raised the colors amid the cheers of the men on the three vessels. The three vessels kept together all day and arrived here at 7 o'clock in the evening. The steamer Montgomery, which had Captain Varian's battery, arrived during the night, and on Friday, 26th, about noon, we were landed. The 12th Regiment of New York left on Friday for Washington. We arrived in time to see them off. The 69th left for the purpose of guarding the railroad between this place and Washington, a distance of 40 miles. Both regiments looked well and were in excellent spirits. The grounds occupied by us belong to the U.S. government and have been used as a naval school, which has been broken up and ordered to Newport. The dwellings occupied by the professors have been given up to the military for barracks, which makes us very comfortable, although a little crowded. Our food is very fair, considering the circumstances, but I assure you there is very little fault found. 2 of our companies have been sent some 8 miles up the bay on special duty, also 2 squads of Captain Varian's battery. There are about 4,500 men at this place at the present time, and 2 steamers are now in the bay with more, probably Ellsworth's Zouaves and the 5th Regiment from New York. I will try to give you some more information in a day or two, but we have been so busy that we hardly know what is going on here. Yours, etc., SMB, Company H, 8th Regiment.
Editorial Sunday Mercury. Fire and Military News, April 28, 1861. The Fire Zouaves. This regiment is now equipped and ready for service. It is just 10 days since Colonel Elmer E. Ellsworth first reached town from Washington and communicated to us his project to enlist city firemen and form a regiment to be sent to Washington immediately. On Thursday, April 18th, the colonel called the prominent members of the fire department to meet him at the Astor House. They approved of the plan, and on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the companies were enrolled. He drilled the battalion on Monday. On Tuesday, they were mustered into service. On Wednesday and Thursday, equipped and quartered. On Friday morning, April 26th, ready to march. They had to wait for supplies, however, but they depart today, carrying with them the blessings and Godspeeds of 1,000,000 true lovers of the Union who dwell around and upon this patriotic island home. As it is decreed that we cannot go with this regiment, in whose ranks may be found some of our best friends, we implore headquarters to place them in the position they ask for. That is, the nearest to the enemies of their country, and face to foe with the bragging, yellow-faced Southern traitors, if they dare to face honest men. We fear not for the result.
Ellsworth's Fire Zouaves, Washington, D.C., May 8, 1861. To the editors of the Sunday Mercury, this is the first opportunity I have had of communicating with you since I left New York. We are quartered in the Senate Chamber of the United States, the last place which should be occupied by American troops fighting Americans. The boys are in excellent health, never better in the world, and all are anxious and eager for a fight. You mark my word, no regiment ever left New York at any time that will do the execution in battle that the Zouaves will do. We had 6 bad-minded men in the regiment, and they came very near disgracing us all. It appears that 3 of the men applied to Captain Michael Tagan for admission to his company, but he would not receive them unless they were members of the fire department. Somehow or other, they obtained possession of badges and, unfortunately for ourselves, the real characters of the men were not known till it was too late. When discovered, they were drummed out of the regiment and will be sent to New York tomorrow in irons. We got into camp some day this week, and I will send you the full particulars of our movements in a weekly letter hereafter. I have 28 members and ex-members of Hose Company No. 41, and I must say they are doing very well. Send me some of your Sunday paper regularly. The boys can't do without it. If you forget it and I am shot, I will haunt you. Company C, Ellsworth's Fire Zouaves.
Volunteering for 12 months and for the war. A patriotic letter from a son to his father. Dear Father, the Leicester Volunteers, Company E, 14th Georgia Infantry, are now preparing to start for the seat of war, and I feel it to be my duty to ask your consent before I go. When I volunteered for 1 year, you seemed perfectly willing, but when I saw you last, you appeared dissatisfied that I had agreed to go for the entire war. It is needless for me to say anything in regard to the change which the Congress of the Confederate States has made. Let us suffice to say that I think it nothing but right, and if I did not, I would be willing to go anyhow. Nothing can be too hard. no sacrifice too great when liberty is at stake, but a father's love will foresee dangers and urge a cause of fear. You point me to the toils, hardships, and dangers of a soldier's life. These I know are great, but is the strong right arm of God too weak to protect, too short to defend me from the vices and crimes which surround the soldier, the only enemies I fear? Shall I not trust in him? Ah, but death is almost certain, you respond. Would you teach me to fear to die in defense of right, of truth and justice, fighting for the land of my birth, for the rights guaranteed to us by the eternal God, for the home I love? I feel that death, in its most horrid and ghastly form, would have no terrors for me. I have heard this advanced often, and have as repeatedly inquired, when will that be? Will it be necessary only when our land is invaded and laid waste with fire and sword, our homes desolated, our loved ones butchered, when the Confederate flag trails in the dust, our army defeated and disorganized? No, Father. The first gun that boomed from Fort Sumter called in thunder tones upon me to rally to the standard of my country, and I burned to answer that call. But I feel that I cannot go without your consent, for you are my father, and as such have the right to say whether or not I shall go. I beg you, as you love me, withhold not your consent. If you refuse, I must obey, but when it is done, life will have lost all charms for me, even if the South should, by a vigorous campaign, soon end the war, by driving from our land the vandals of the North. Oh, call me not back, rather immure me in some loathsome dungeon. Let me be the erring vassal of some heartless tyrant, bind, rivet the clanking chains of an ignoble, perpetuated slavery upon me, rather than shower on my head the blessings of a liberty bought with the blood of others. Let me pour out the gushing fountain of my own heart to secure my own rights, and I am content. I want no liberty but my own, achieved by my own exertions, and purchased with my own blood. Call me not a blind enthusiast. Does love of country need a stimulant to call it into action? Must reason be dethroned that the fires of patriotism may be aroused? No idle dream of fame, no slavish love of money actuates me. All I ask is to fight for my country. I want no remuneration. Give me a few tattered rags to hide my nakedness, a crust to appease the gnawings of hunger, and liberty, and I am happy. You want me to continue my studies. Do you suppose I can forget a bleeding country and devote my time and attention to the study of the law? Impossible. I sometimes take up my books, determined to forget everything else, but soon my mind is wandering over the plains of the Old Dominion, and in my imagination I hear the thunder of cannon on our borders, and see the smoke of battle ascend in dense columns towards heaven, and books, home, self are forgotten, and I long for the hour of departure to arrive. I know it will wring my heart to bid you perhaps a last farewell. Were I the only one to regret my leaving, I could go without a sigh, but to see my friends in tears is too much for me. Every day I think of that sad, sad hour, and my heart swells with grief. Tears flow unrestrained. I sit down sometimes in my room at the lone hour of the night, when all eyes save those of an all-seeing God are closed in sleep, sometimes in the depths of the forest beneath the overshadowing branches of some monarch of the woods, and give vent to the long pent-up feelings of my aching heart. Do not, however, suppose that this or anything else will keep me from going. Tell Mother to make what clothes she wants me to have. We expect to start in 2 or 3 weeks. Now, Father, let me entrust you with all the earnestness of my heart to give your consent willingly and a father's parting blessing. I cannot go without them. I cannot live and stay at home. Your son, William E. Rogers.
William E. Rogers, age 19, enlisted in Company E, 14th Georgia Infantry as a private on July 4, 1861. He was wounded at Seven Pines, Virginia, on May 31, 1862, and later discharged on account of insanity on March 10, 1863. According to his service records, Rogers was killed at Willow Creek, Cobb County, Georgia, in 1864.
New York Fire, Zouaves, Washington, D.C., Wednesday, May 8, 1861, 9 a.m. To the editors of the Sunday Mercury. Hurrah for the Zouaves, a working fire under Chief Engineer Ellsworth. I have just returned from a working fire in Pennsylvania Avenue next door, but one from Willard's Hotel. At 4 o'clock this morning, May 8th, we were started from sleep by the ringing of the city bells, and on turning out found that a large 5-story building in the locality above mentioned was in a blaze. We had to roll the engines and hose carriages, get them to work, man the brakes, and take charge of the pipes. Our gallant little colonel got a trumpet and officiated as chief, assisted by Hackett, Wildey, Leverich, Downey, and other assistants. The splendid hotel was in imminent danger owing to the miserable machines here and an insufficient supply of water. We got street pipes on and also got on the roof of the building next to Willard's, a mighty hot spot too. And after about 2.5 hours of hard work, got the fire confined to the building in which it originated. The truckmen threw down the cornice and chimneys, and when all danger was past, our new chief formed us in line when we were addressed by the well-known Colonel Joseph Mansfield of the U.S. Army and Mr. Henry Willard, proprietor of the hotel, the latter of whom invited us to partake of the best his house afforded. Forming by companies, we proceeded to the special dining room where we had the best meal since leaving New York. After complimenting us for our bravery, Mr. Willard stated that he owed the preservation of his hotel to the firemen Zouaves and would long bear us in remembrance. With a hearty cheer and a zoo-zoo shout, we marched off to quarters, Chief Ellsworth in command, with his trumpet under his arm. Major Robert Anderson was also at one of the hotel windows. We cheered him heartily, and he returned the compliment by repeatedly saluting us. Our movement since our arriving here you are, of course, acquainted with. On Monday, we were under arms for 10 hours and were mustered into service for the war, the regiment thus being the first to take the general oath. Some scamps who crept into our ranks before leaving New York have committed outrages here, but they have been taken and will be sent home in irons. 5 of the vagabonds will be turned over to the civil authorities. It seems strange to see the red shirts from New York occupying the desks and splendid rooms of the senators. I am now writing to you on the desk of the little giant, Senator Stephen Douglas. Some of the Massachusetts men are roaming around in front of me looking for Senator Charles Sumner's desk. The boys address each other by the names on their desks thus: Senator Bright, lend me your envelope. Senator Powell, oblige me with a penful of ink. Senator King, your knife, if you please. Senator Doolittle, give me half that cracker, etc. Rather a big thing this for the fellows and the pet lambs. All the men are anxious to meet the Southern pirates in a fair fight, and you may rely on it that every crack of their rifles will bring a man down. The Sunday Mercury is in great demand here. It is meat and drink to the boys. A couple of thousand more than the usual quantity taken here would hardly begin to meet the demand. Please send me a couple of copies regularly. Let the friends of our members in New York know that they ought to direct their letters to the care of Colonel Ellsworth, and in the multitude of correspondence, the letters are delayed somewhat. Everything is going on smoothly, and we will be at home in our tents very shortly. Those tents are of the Sibley pattern, the first ever given to a regiment by the United States government. They are, as you know, in the shape of Marquez and will accommodate 16 men each. All of the camp equipage goes with them. Another big thing for the pet lambs. We were told by the colonel that our new parade and inspection uniform will be here in a day or two. The sooner the better, for our present rig looks pretty shabby in consequence of having to rough it out on the dirty decks of the Baltic during the passage. Rumors are flying thick relative to an attack on the city this week. Let it come. The fire department banner will head the van, and we will bring back with us some of the pirates' colors besides. Yours, etc., John A. Smith, Company H, New York Fire, Zouaves.